It's time for our parenting and family corner. Lying is one of those tricky parenting challenges, and you probably face it when your child is very, very young. At around ages 3 to 4, they start experimenting with lies. The truth is, lying is a natural part of child development. Research published in Child Development shows that most children start by experimenting as their imagination, self-control, and social awareness grow. Far from being a sign of moral failure, lying shows that children are beginning to understand that their thoughts and actions can differ from what others know. As children grow, the nature of their lies can also evolve. Younger children might lie to avoid trouble or even test those boundaries, while older children, especially teenagers, might lie to assert independence or navigate a complex social dynamics. To help us on how do you as a parent deal with your child's lie, we're joined by Dr. Carol Chakua, who's a psychologist and parent coach, joining us from Kenya. Dr. Carol, thank you for joining us on the line.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning. It's afternoon over here.
All right, where in Kenya are you joining us?
Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh, we love that part of Kenya. Let's talk a little bit about lies. We usually think lies are just all about morality, but it's more complicated than that. Lies can be an indicator of something that's happening with your child, whether it's growth or what's happening in terms of their self-development.
Right, that's true. And lying is very common. I think we have been socialized to, like you say, looking at lying from a moral failure perspective. And so there's a lot of shaming around lying. And when we step back, and I had you say earlier, just developmentally, how it shows back out, is first of all to really begin to think about, is it developmentally quote unquote appropriate? Younger children, there are bloodlines between what is real and what is imagination. And sometimes they lie just because they wish things were that way, and so they speak it out, especially between 3 to 6 years, because it starts as early as 3 years. And so just the first thought is to think, you're lying because you're a bad child. And most of the parents that I work with will always project the lie that is happening in the moment, and they project it 25 years from now and start making up stories about how this child will end up robbing a bank and things like that. So it's important for us to look at it from the age appropriateness of it. So around between 7 to 12 years, we're looking at just pushing limits. They want to look good and avoid punishment, of course. And then obviously in the teenage years, like you said again, it's about identity, it's about peer pressure, it's about the fear of being judged. But when we look at it generally, children lie for the same reasons adults do. To avoid getting into trouble, to impress others, So just how we react is really what really matters. Because we need to provide a space where they feel safe for us to say the truth.
Dr. Chakua, there is a Zulu saying here in South Africa that says, "Ligotshwa lisase manzi." That means that you need to bend this rod when it's still wet, meaning when it's still flexible. And this spotlights how important it is to start, shaping your children at that very young age. And I would say that it is those toddler years, even though we're speaking about obviously age-appropriate ways as they grow, it's those first years that actually mean the most, right? Because that's when children start trying to see where the boundaries are. And as you said, they also want to see your reactions. So they start doing something and they want to see, how far can I get away with a particular thing? What can I do? And if I do this, how will my parents or guardians react to this situation? So let's start there, because it starts with a little bit of a sugar or a donut stealing and they bite it. And of course, or that peanut butter. And of course, it's all over the face. But then they say to you, I didn't steal it. and then they wait for your reaction to see whether what they've done is good or bad and how it actually shapes the relationship with you. How should those moments, how should parents actually take in those moments outside of the fact that they are really, really cute, and sometimes we take videos to post because, you know, the kids are still so cute and you're like, oh my goodness, this is such a cute moment. But it's more than just a cute moment, isn't it?
It is more than a cute moment. And you're right. We also have a Swahili saying that says, samaki mkunje angali mdogo. A fish, you need to shape a fish while it's still very tender. So yes, we want to be able to provide the right environment right off from the start, but always coming from a place of the age appropriateness. You know, when you look at the development of the brain, being able to think through a decision and think through something before they say, it's not really something developed at age 2, at age 3. So as cute as it may be, there's still also just that space where you're like, they're still young. Even if I try to correct now, I will need to do it over and over. So just call it out and say, no, honey, you know, this, you see this, you call it out gently, you know, this is not true. This is what the fact is. See, from a place of not accusatory space, but also just from a place of gently calling it out when they are young. When they are older, and, you know, to be honest, I wouldn't worry too much between 3 to 6. Obviously, we don't want to make it all cutesy and take videos all the time because we are encouraging.
Sure.
And then at that age also, I know we like to say they're testing the limit to see how far they can go, but it's not from also a manipulative space. It's the way we interpret it as adults is what's really going to determine what we do. So if you remove the label of they're being manipulative, they're just trying me out to see how far we'll go, then you look at it in terms of, look, their brain is just not yet there. And therefore, my job is to plant the right seeds now. And we may not see the results at 5, at 6, but we'll begin to see because I'm preparing them for the long haul. So number one, for always, I look at everything from a bigger picture. Number one, model honesty yourself. Be that person who really just speaks the truth. And that's the biggest way they learn. Number two, when that happens, do not explode on them.
Yeah.
Don't put them on the defensive. Just make a mental note, you know, that this is a lesson that I need to teach during the calm times. During that moment is just to really call it out in a way that is gentle. If children know that you won't be angry or disappointed when they mess up, they're more likely to tell you the truth. So
all right,
again,
Dr. Carol.
it's about how you do that.
Sure, we're going to take a quick break there. Good advice. You know, I don't know if it's the African way, but I'll stereotype Africa because reprimanding is usually shouting and, hey, don't. You are lying to me. You know, we've heard that so many times growing up, and it seems like you have a different strategy there in terms of that. Just note it, just also have a sense of empathy, also speak with a sense of sincerity. But I love the fact that you yourself as a parent need to also model that good behavior. We're speaking to Dr. Carol Chakua, who's joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Dr. Carol is a psychologist and parent coach who's talking about when you see your child starting to lie, or as they grow, the lies continue and continue. How do you deal with that challenge? We'll continue after the break. This is on
Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Chanel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Binales Sport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Balisa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
What should you know as a parent about your children lying, all the way from the very early stages when they're toddlers until they become teenagers and young adults? Lies will play a part in various forms of your life. But how do you know it's a problem, and how do you shape your children to really understand the dynamics and impacts of lying? We're still speaking to Dr. Carol Chakua, who's a psychologist and parent coach, joining us from Kenya this morning here on The Move. Let's speak about that relationship between parent and child. Ben asked me earlier if my son has lied to me recently. And of course, we never really know 100% what the truth is. But my son is almost 19. And I said, no, I don't believe so, because of the relationship that was quite intentional that we built together from the time he was very young, that he comes to me and offers me information that I didn't even ask for, that many young people would actually be afraid to tell their parents about. And that's where I want to go with this conversation, right? Because as children get older, some of the lies can be quite dangerous to themselves, because before they've fully developed, especially before their frontal lobe has developed, they can put themselves in dangerous situations simply because they think that they don't want to tell you the truth about something they're going to do. So building and cultivating a relationship where children are able to converse openly with their parents and guardians can be quite important in this regard. But how do we do that as parents?
Yeah, and it's sometimes it sounds very cliche. Just spend time with them, build a relationship and all that. But it's really in the little moments, like in our conversations with parents, we talk about what we call conscious connection. And conscious connection is just basically just like 10 minutes, 20 minutes of one-on-one interaction with your child, where you're fully present. It's in the little things, in the seeds that we plant, because during those times when we are connecting with them, our children respond to us better when they feel connected to us. You talk about your 19-year-old son. I have a 16-year-old son, and it's pretty much the same conversations, around being able to leverage on the times that you are spending, where there is no agenda, where you're not bringing up stuff of, you need to do homework or college applications or things like that. You're just hanging out. You let them teach you something. Make sure it is one-on-one. We are used to hanging out as families, all of us, but try and carve out time one-on-one. And during those moments, that's when the oxytocins, the feel-good hormones are produced. And those hormones, what they do, those chemicals, what they do, they make us more cooperative with one another. So I always tell parents, picture those one-on-one moments as something happening physiologically in the brain. Just beyond having fun and enjoying each other, know that something is happening physiologically in the brain. And the more your child feels connected to you, the less they are going to seek out things that will probably get them into addictions, into trouble, into lying, because your voice becomes the most. So cultivating that relationship, really, it's in the small little things, the one-on-ones where you're fully present. And then, so that's during the, outside of the lying moments. But when it comes to moments when they are lying, sometimes you can tell, this probably is a half a truth, and you can say something like, look, I want you just to think about what you have said and tell me, and just go back. Go think about what you have told me. Come back and tell me if you want to say that same thing again, because I have a feeling, I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that you're not telling me all the truth, the entire truth. So it's things like that. Let's not threaten, I know you're lying and all that. Just like, you know what, it just sounds, just doesn't sound like this. Let me give you some time to go think about it. So it's in things like that.
That's actually leading to the next question I wanted to ask you. As I said before the break, that as I don't know in the African context, but I know that shouting was a response in many African cultures. That's how you reprimand, by shouting, or there has to be physical punishment to a lie, especially. What are the negative ways to respond to a child lying, especially when they're young or even as they grow older?
Yeah, there are many. I could give you a whole list. But of course, what you say, the yelling and the shouting, of course, the shaming, we label them as liars. We give them long lectures. I call them 2-hour lectures. And especially for us moms, we are really good at that. We just go on and on and on and give different versions of the same thing. And it's very exhausting to them, you know.
Sure.
And so it's important for us to just step back and just ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What am I making of this situation right now? So do not label them. Don't go on and on talking and giving different versions. Do not set them up for lying. You know, sometimes, for example, you will walk into their room and see the room is messy. Then you walk out and say, have you cleaned the room? Oh my gosh, the first thing they'll say is no. Don't set them up to lie. Just say something like, I noticed you didn't do this. So you know what the consequences are. So it's things like that. Sometimes we promise them, if you tell me the truth, then I will not give you the consequence. Again, that is a big don't. When you have talked about lying and its consequences, you still say, look, I still expect you the truth, but I expect you to tell me the truth, knowing that there is still a consequence. You know, sometimes we try to bargain with them. So don't exchange truth for a consequence. So just really be able to have, on all this is done the best outside those moments. So I say, whenever you want to teach a child something, there is the 10%, which is the intense moment, 10% of the time. Then there is 90% of the time. 90% is where we hang out with them. That's where we have conversations about the consequences and things like that. Yeah.
I know that lying can be a mental illness and can be an indicator of something that's more serious with your child. How do you pick that problem up?
Yes, that's a good one. And as we always say in the mental health space, you look at 3 things. Number 1, the age appropriateness, which we have talked about. Number 2 is the frequency. How often is it being done? And then number 3 is the intensity. And intensity is that it's so much, it's lying almost all the time, but then they even they overlook the consequences consistently. So those 3 things, age appropriateness, intensity, and frequency, is what really now makes us begin to think. They don't even look at the risks. They're just continuing to take those risks. That's where the intensity comes in. And that's when you need to step back and ask, does my child really need support? And then, of course, and it's always good to check in with a coach or a therapist to be able to now do whatever assessments they need to do. But yes, and you see, it can be a mental health issue, but that is for the minority. I think very quickly we go to that space as parents because of our fears, and we bring a lot of fears, and that pushes them and puts the walls up, and they lie even more. So the person that really needs support in this whole space is the parent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll have to wrap it up there, Dr. Carol. Thank you so much for your time and for helping us really navigate this space, because it doesn't matter who you are. As a parent, you will have to deal with the lie at some point or another, and probably more than once within your child's lifetime. So it's a very important conversation to have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a good day.
Have a great day. Joining us from Nairobi, Kenya, is Dr. Carol Chakua, who's a psychologist and parent coach, helping us navigate as parents and guardians, maybe even uncles, grandmothers and grandfathers, about children lying. Once again, it's 11:30 Central Africa time. Let's bring back Fikile Ngwadi for our latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.